What's up, Nova Heads? It's Amber Nova.
This is Chris Lights Out Lido.
Hi, this is Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Ice Boogie.
It's the real and raw August Artois.
This is Smiling Sam Alvey.
It's Archimedes.
I'm Jack Cartwheel, the real deal, the human highlight reel.
This is Steve Mowry.
I'm Victor Henry.
It's ECW Original, The Enforcer. CWFH.
This is Honest John.
This is Mr. Classic.
I'm Jason Bonet.
The young goes.
It's old Hattie Price here.
When I say what's my name, tonight.
Richie Slade.
My name is Gino Rivera, the Frank Sinatra of the Spanish Mafia.
The incredible one, Anthony Idol.
This is Ken Shamrock.
The Golden Boy, Jordan Clearwater.
Yo, watch and listen.
Championship Online.
This is Alex Mars here. Hi, Richard Modest.
So, please listen to it, otherwise be cursed. Okay, see you later. Love that, Dennis.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're now watching and listening to Championship Online Podcast. If you're new to this channel, my name is Alex, and this is my co-host, Rich. And today is a very, very special episode here because we got a pro wrestler in the house who's done so much in wrestling, talking from level pro, also doing things from championships from Hollywood, all over the state of California. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Mike Camden, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Pretty good. In yourself?
All right. I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you very much.
I know, of course, man, and we're so excited to have you on. And before we start this interview, we like to do a segment. Like we ask 10 fun questions about yourself. Is that cool to do it for you?
Sure.
All right, take it away, Rich.
Awesome. We'll start right away with the first question. What is your favorite movie of all time?
I don't know if I have like one movie. I have a lot of movies. I'm a big Star Wars fan. The original trilogy is probably my favorite out of all those. The Godfather, I love the Godfather movies. 1 and 2. Number 3, that doesn't exist in my life. I'm a big science fiction guy. I also like superheroes movies, comedies. So I don't know if I have one, but I have movies that I like a lot. Like recently, like these past couple years, the 2 movies that have blown me away is Dune. The Dune remake was so sick. And then the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. Fantastic. Yeah. And it's only gotten better the more I've watched it. And I've watched it a lot because I don't do much.
Awesome picks.
That's about it. I mean, I don't know if I have like one certain one, but I have a lot of movies that I just I enjoy watching. I'm one of those guys that I can watch it over and over and over.
Oh yeah, nice. With the next question, do you have a favorite TV show?
Same thing, man. I don't know if I have one particular, but I have a lot that I enjoy. My newest show that I've recently got on that it's been around for a while, and I don't know why I never really watched it when I was younger. Was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Oh, yeah. I love that show. I during the quarantine, I picked it up, and it's just fantastic. I love that show so much. And then, I'm a big Family Guy, South Park. There was a show on HBO not too long ago called Eastbound and Down. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And, Married with Children, of course, The Simpsons, big fan of all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, man, when you try to narrow down so many movies to one, it's tough, or TV shows. So, and it switches all the time, like, what's your favorite? Hey, I'll just tell you I have a lot of favorites.
Oh, so that works. All of those are so great that never get tired over time. Like you just watch the episode on repeat. They're just ultimate classics.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, the next question, do you have any favorite musicians or band that you like to listen to in particular?
Same thing, man. I like a lot of bands. I don't know if I would say particularly one. One of my favorite bands growing up when I was a kid was 311. They were actually my first concert I went to. And I saw them multiple times. I actually was in one of their music videos when I was younger.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you're not going to see me in the video, but I was there, I promise you. And but I mean, I kind of like grew out of their music and started listening to more like heavy metal and hardcore. I'm a big rap guy too. So when it comes to music, I have to say, there's not just one certain person or group that I enjoy. I enjoy a lot of it. I mean, I went to the Padre game yesterday, and the drive down there, the Uber driver was playing Michael Jackson the whole way down, and I was like, "This is sick." Michael Jackson's the man. But I mean, if you had to like one album, that's probably what my favorite albums is. Probably Nevermind by Nirvana.
Oh yeah.
If you weren't alive back then when Nirvana was around, you don't understand the kind of impact they had on society. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. Kurt Cobain, he's the greatest.
Oh no, for sure, for sure. Because it was a little bit before our time, but even like when we were kids, like our dad playing that for the first time, it's like nothing like you ever heard of. Like if you introduce it now this generation, they're like, "What is this? This is amazing."
That's how we felt back when I was in 4th grade listening to that Nirvana.
Like, what is this? Awesome. The next question: do you have any like favorite meals like you like to eat?
I'm like a hamburger, like a meat and potatoes kind of guy. Like I like hamburgers. I'm not a fancy eater. My wife's a fancy eater. She likes sushi and a whole bunch of different types of food that I have no idea how to say. So I'm very basic. I like pizza. I like Italian food, Mexican food. Yeah, I mean, I'm a variety guy when it comes to all this stuff. So when you try and say like, what's one thing? It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It depends on what the day of the week it is.
Right. Nice. Do you have any like favorite sports teams you're a fan of?
Well, I'm a Padres guy. I grew up in San Diego. So the Padres are my baseball team. The Chargers are my football team. I still root for them, but it's not as much, since they left San Diego. But they're still my team. And hockey, San Diego, we have the Gulls, which is like a minor league team.
Yeah.
And my wife is from Chicago, so the first hockey game that I ever went to was a Blackhawks game. So I kind of chose them as my favorite hockey team. And I played hockey in high school. It's a fantastic sport. So I like them. Basketball, I don't really have a team anymore. I used to like the Kings, but that's back in like the early 2000s when they had their rivalry with the Lakers. And but yeah, I'm a Padres guy, I guess. You probably basically say that.
Nice.
You just broke my heart, man.
I was about to say that.
Where are you cats from?
We're from Rancho. Yeah, Cucamonga.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool, man.
Yeah, we're Dodger fans, so
yeah.
It's,
all right. I understand.
I had the same conversation with. We had another guest that was a huge Padres fan, Rick Ellis, that was on the pod.
Okay. Yep. I know Rick.
And he's a huge Padres fan. So like me and him would go back and forth. Yeah,
he's a big baseball Padres fan. Yeah.
But yeah, me and him always go back and forth with it. But yeah, it's fun and admissible with Padres. But yeah, he's a huge Padres fan. But yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Nick, sir, do you have any favorite video games?
Let's see. Favorite video games. It's probably got to be Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Mario Kart's always it's tried and true. It's always going to be a relevant game. I think everybody loves that game. So I never really got too into video games growing up. I guess I did a little bit with the original Nintendo. Yeah, that's how old I am, guys. And but I mean, like back when I was like 20, my friends and I used to play Halo a lot. That was fun. And Tiger Woods golf. But Mario Kart's probably my go-to video game if I have to play it. And I'm the Koopa Troopa. That's my dude.
Sick. No, for sure. Like I remember playing like 10 years ago, like on the Game Boy Mario Kart, and now it's on a Nintendo DS or not Nintendo Switch. Like every console they keep on making it. Like it never dies.
Exactly, man. It doesn't need much to it. It's a basic video game.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sure. With the next question, if you're at 7-Eleven and you only could pick five items or less, what will those five items be?
All right. Here we go. I frequent 7-Eleven a lot, so I should have some answers for this. It's probably going to be some kind of energy drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. What's the new one that they have out? Is it Ghost? I think it might be Ghost. I'll probably grab one of those. I'll probably grab a Cliff Bar, the white chocolate macadamia nut. Probably grabbing a coffee. Definitely need a coffee out of there. And pack of Orbit's gum. The blue one? I can't remember what the flavor is called. Let's see, one more thing I can pull out of there. A bottle of water. There you go.
Nice.
Awesome.
People struggle with this question, which is
yeah,
because people take their time, like, huh.
Dude,
but
I find myself in 7-Elevens a lot, so I actually had pretty good answers for you on that one.
Nice.
Well, but it's true, like Alex says, it's like the classic. Use like some kind of candy or like an energy bar or energy drink.
Yeah.
Like we have people are like, well, I don't know what to get there. I'm like, how do you not like just pick gum or something?
Yeah, exactly, man. Be honest. You know what you're grabbing when you go in there.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, the next question: do you have a hobby outside of wrestling?
I guess my hobbies right now are doing boxing and jiu-jitsu. I guess that's kind of my hobbies.
Okay.
I just got into it not too long ago, and it's fun. It keeps me busy.
Nice.
Oh yeah, for sure. Awesome. But the next, do you have a ritual before you enter the ring, before you have a match?
A little bit. I wouldn't say it's too much of a ritual. Back when I had my long hair, I would have to spray my hair down consistently all the way to the curtain, basically, because my hair would dry pretty quickly, and once it dried, it would just start getting in my face and looking stupid. So I would have to constantly just be wetting it down. Hunter Freeman used to give me a lot of shit about that. And no, that's about kind of just focusing on the match and what's going on, and that's about it. I don't think I have too much of a pre-match ritual.
Oh, nice.
The last but not least, the last question: if you could have a match with someone who isn't a wrestler, who would it be with?
And now this is just anybody?
Yeah, it could be any celebrity, an athlete, a fictional character, anybody.
Let's see. A match with anybody. A wrestling match. A pro wrestling match with anybody. Anybody I choose. I mean, let's go with Al Bundy, right?
Ooh.
There you go. Let's go with Al Bundy. I'll have a pro wrestling match with Ed O'Neill. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he has some skills.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's fucking Al Bundy. He scored 4 touchdowns in one game. Okay.
Yeah. Right? Was he like a Polk High state champion or something like that? He could put his championship on the line.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How would you see a match? Do you see yourself winning that match, or?
I don't know, man. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. That's I mean, are we going shoot style or are we going worked on this? Because if we're going worked, I'll try and go over. But shoot, he might have me. I don't know.
Awesome. That's so cool. But again, Mike, thank you so much for being on the pod, man. Very appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. Very, very excited to have you on. I've been watching. Both of us have been watching wrestling since back in the Hollywood days, back in early mid 2000s, even recently. With during the COVID times of all your matches. But before I talk about that, I just want to get back to like the beginning. So tell us the beginning from your journey. Like, how did you first get introduced to pro wrestling? Like, how did that journey start for you?
You know what, man? I was just a kid watching wrestling, and my first wrestler that I have a memory of watching and being a fan of was Junkyard Dog. So that's very old, very old. And then I just stayed with it. I always watched it. I enjoyed it. I loved it as a kid. And that was the time when wrestling got exposed as being not real, as being predetermined, all that kind of stuff. So I had a lot of friends telling me like, oh, how can you like this? It's not even real. Like it's fake. And I was like, I don't care. I still enjoy watching it. Like, I just don't care. And so, it was one of those things where I kept it quiet. I would watch it, but I wouldn't really tell anybody that I was watching it. I'd watch it Saturday mornings, and I would just kind of watch it by myself. None of my family really got into it. I have 3 brothers, and none of them like pro wrestling. And, something happened when I was in high school. I think it was probably like my freshman or sophomore year. Wrestling took off, and everybody started wearing the gear. They started wearing NWO, Austin 316, The Rock shirts, Shawn Michaels shirts, like, DX, all that kind of stuff. So wrestling became cool. And I was like, whoa, what happened here? Like, all you guys used to not like wrestling. And now you guys are all wearing the gear. And, it was always in my life watching pro wrestling. So I had a friend, his name was Alec. We would go over to his house because he had a satellite TV. So we watched the East Coast Raw. And then if it was good enough, we'd go back to my house because I had the West Coast time, and we would watch it again. This was before you could really record. I mean, I'm sure we could have recorded on a VHS, but we weren't rocket science back then. And we couldn't have figured it out. So you would just watch it, and that was a crazy thing back then, is watching wrestling. It was a one-time thing. There was, like, whereas YouTube and you have all these apps nowadays where you can go and rewatch, or if you can't watch it that night, you record it and you watch it the next day. It was one-time shot back then. You watched it or you didn't, and you had to watch it. WCW and WWF during the Attitude Era, you had to watch it. And if you missed something, it was gone forever, basically, unless like they happened to run a clip of it the next week or something like that. But of course now, you can go and watch a lot of the stuff on the apps. But back then, it was one and done. You missed it, you missed out. So, yeah, I just always liked wrestling. I always thought it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, I remember too, because we grew up more of the Ruthless Aggression era, being fans of that. And it's almost like when you're in school, like it was almost like you had to keep it a secret that you're a wrestling fan. Like, you couldn't tell anyone, you couldn't tell the kids, because like either that they would make fun of you and you felt embarrassed. So like it was almost like you had to keep it like a secret, like, oh yeah, like, I'm not a wrestling fan, but so yeah. Because I remember Rich and I, we wouldn't tell anyone until like if we met someone that liked it, then we're like, oh yeah, we like wrestling.
Yeah, it's like if they said the password, you'd be like, oh shit. Like you're down with it too. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, of course. And I know from Rich and I, like, when we were little, we would always like wrestle each other. So like we would have matches, backyard wrestling, stuff like that. For you, was there a time like you would wrestle like friends, or did like backyard wrestling?
Oh yeah, of course. The trampoline wrestling. Who didn't do that? The pool. Whenever my friends were around a pool, somebody's getting speared into the pool. Yeah, man, we used to do all that kind of stuff, man. It was fun. I loved it.
Nice. And I don't know if you noticed, like, from behind, Rich and I have like a lot of figures behind us. Was there ever a time that you collected the figures or played the wrestling games?
No, the wrestling games a little bit. I'm not a member. I never got into action figures. They're expensive. In my family, we didn't have money back then, so they weren't going to be spending it on action figures. What else was there? You said video games. Yeah. I never really got into the video games. A little bit. The original. So on original Nintendo, there was this game called Pro Wrestling, and this had like Starman. It had like the Swamp Thing. It had all these like weird characters. It was a really terrible game, but it was fun as shit back when I was a kid. And that's where I learned where an enziguri kick came from, and it was dope. So pro wrestling that was the name of the game. That was the game that I played the most. I never really got into like all the newer video games that they are now, but I've tried playing them and I still don't really like them. It's just kind of like, yeah, this is kind of lame. I don't know. It's just not the same.
Yeah, I think it's like even now, like every year they always come with a new game, and it's kind of hard to catch up with all the new stuff that's coming out right now.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I'm just not like a big video game guy.
Mm-hmm. And take us back, what made you like, being a fan, like what made you decide like you were going to pursue into the business and become a professional wrestler? Like when did that moment hit for you?
Well, so back when I was 21 years old, I was living up by San Diego State with a bunch of friends, and another one of my friends who was a big wrestling guy. His name was Craig. I don't know if you guys are on Twitter, but he's what's his name? Cozy Superkick. I don't know if you guys have ever heard him on Twitter, but he does a lot of gifts for like PWG and all that kind of stuff. But he was very much into the wrestling business, and he told me about a school up in San Bernardino called EWF, Empire Wrestling Federation. Mm-hmm. So when I was 21, I ended up going up there. I moved to Temecula, and then I ended up going to EWF for about 5 months. And then I kind of just fell out of it. And it was just probably because I wasn't mature enough to be a pro wrestler back then. The business is, especially back then, you didn't have an iPhone showing you where to go, keeping you connected with everybody. You had a cell phone, but all it did was make phone calls. That's it. So you had to make long drives, and you would have to print out the directions before you went there. And it was just it was a different time. And I just wasn't really ready for all that kind of stuff back when I was a kid, being by myself on drives and all that kind of stuff. So I trained for about 4 months, and then I kind of fell out of it. And I went and worked in the nightclub industry for a handful of years, and ended up meeting the girl that became my wife. And I ended up actually meeting another guy while I was working there. His name's Rob. And Rob grew up next door neighbors to John Cena, and he's like best friends with him. So in 2013, Rob, myself, another friend of mine named Bryant, and one other person, I can't remember who it is right now. We went to Arizona. We went to Phoenix for the Royal Rumble because John Cena hooked us up with tickets. So went and watched the show, and I was like, man, I should have stuck with this and seen how far I could go with it. And that put the idea back into my head of like, hey, let's make one more run out of this, because I was about 30 years old by then. And I was like, man, if I don't do it now, I'll probably never do it, because the older you are, getting into pro wrestling, probably not the better, right? Mm-hmm. So found out about a school named Socal Pro up in Escondido. Went to a show with Craig, and we watched it, and I was like, I can do this. And you know what? I think I can do it better than these guys. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, because I ended up working with a lot of those guys, and I'm friendly with a lot of those guys that I saw on the show now. It was just my confidence that I was like, man, I can do this. I think I can do this, and I can do it better. So about a month later, I started training at Socal Pro, and all I really wanted to do was have one match. Like, that was my one goal, was like, hey, at least just do one match and see what happens from there. So I started training in June of 2013, and then they have a Rumble in October. Socal Pro has a Rumble in October, and the owner named Jeff Dino, he saw me in the ring practicing, and then I went out over the top rope backwards, and he was like, hey, you want to be in the Rumble in October? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I probably debuted way too soon. Jeff probably just needed a body that could, fill a spot, because when you're having a Rumble, you need a lot of people. And in independent wrestling, it's not easy to get like 30 plus wrestlers for really no money, because, there's so many people, you're not going to get paid much. But he just needed me, and he probably saw me go over the rope backwards and was like, yeah, you'll do. But I was hyped. I was like, dude, all right, here we go. I got a date. Here we go. I want to, get in there, and I want to do my best. And it's so funny because in pro wrestling, all you're worried about is your spots, your big moves, your cool shit, right? And you completely forget, like, hey, you got to learn how to punch and kick, because that obviously comes secondary to everything. And that's a joke. It's not. It should be number one. And as soon as I got in there, I went and did my little spots and all that kind of stuff. And then I went, oh crap, now I got to punch and kick. And I don't know how to punch and kick. And I probably looked ridiculous. But it also made me realize, like, hey, I got to learn how to, I got to pick up on these smaller things. It's not all about big spots and springboards and big moves and spots. It's about, the small things and making those small things look really good. So yeah, that was my, I just got back into it, man, and stuck with it for a little while.
Mm-hmm. And I think like when it comes to like every, like, especially new student or new wrestler come in, I think they expect the big moves, the flash moves to be the most important thing, and it's not. It's the small things are, I think, what makes it more and more important.
Yep.
And like you said, like coming from training from EWF, how much did that prepare you going in for your second run training again? Like, did that help you at all from having that 5 months of training and coming back to it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, right when I got in there, I think my first day at EWF, I was doing like sunset flips and all that kind of stuff, like stuff that you probably shouldn't be doing first day. But I ended up, when my little time at EWF, I learned hip tosses, arm drags, stuff like that. So when I went back to Socal Pro and they were showing that stuff, I already knew it. So it helped me out a little bit. Yeah, definitely the rolls, the basic moves. Yeah, it helped me out, definitely.
And what was it like too during your time at training at EWF? What was it like working with Jesse?
It was cool, man. Jesse was a nice guy. I really liked him. He was a very nice guy. The drive sucked, getting up there. But it was all good, I guess. It kind of, there was one trainer there that I wasn't too, I didn't really like that much. And I can't even remember what his name is, but I remember, Jesse hit me up and he was like, hey, you live down in San Diego, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, Raw's coming to town to San Diego. Do you want to go there and fly her? Like, yeah, sure, of course I do. You get to go backstage. And so anyways, I get a they're like, hey, yeah, go fly her for the WWF, and you can hang out backstage and you get to watch the show for free and all that stuff. And I was like, cool, man. So the trainer that was up at EWF, he came down, and this is the one I didn't really like that much. And I'm kind of hanging out with him. It was cool, man, because we were walking backstage and I was just like seeing all these wrestlers that I grew up watching, like, oh my God. And I saw Chris Benoit, and I remember, this was before all that stuff happened. But I couldn't believe the size of Chris Benoit, because he was short, but I've never seen a man that thick. Like, he looked like a cement block. Like, that's like how I could describe him to. Like, it was amazing. I couldn't believe the size of Chris Benoit. And I got to see Shelton Benjamin like wrestle with like Val Venus, Hurricane, Tyson Tomko. I mean, he was just schooling these guys in the ring. It was amazing, because they were like legit like amateur wrestling.
Yeah.
And so we're hanging out there like like on the railings, and this trainer goes, hey, come on, man, I want to go outside and I want to scalp these tickets, because he had free tickets. So he was trying to make some money off of it. So I'm just like, man, I don't really want to, I don't give a shit about scalping tickets and making money off this stuff, right? I wanted to hang out and watch what was going on in the ring and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, I was young, and, he was the veteran, I guess you could say. So I go out there with him, and he ended up getting in trouble by like the box office for scalping. And that got back to like the WWF or whatever. Anyways, this guy had a dark match planned for like the next weekend, and that got canceled. So he screwed himself out of a dark match.
Jeez.
And I remember like that was kind of like the first little impression of like, you know, what's wrong with this guy, you know, like, and that was kind of more towards the tail end of like when I kind of got out of it, you know, because I was like, oh, I'm probably finished too, brother. You know, Vinnie Mac probably heard about this, which is, you know, ridiculous that I thought like that. But yeah, you know, so like that was like my first kind. But EWF was a fun place to train at. Everybody was really nice, except for that one trainer that I didn't really like. And then, but he obviously shot himself in the foot, so whatever. And yeah, man, it was fine.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy to think about. Like, why would you risk that if you're gonna have a, you know, to get yourself in trouble like that? It's just like the bonehead move.
Yeah, you know. Okay, where were we?
Yeah, I was asking just the next question, which was, you know, getting back to the second time and training at Socal Pro. What was the whole experience like training there and working with the coaches there?
It was fantastic. It hurts. I'm not gonna lie to you, pro wrestling training hurts. A lot of pro wrestling training when you first start is you fall down, you get back up, you fall down, you get back up, and that's it. You got to condition your body. So you know, it's painful. It's not easy. My trainers are fantastic. I tell everybody that I was trained by Tommy Wilson, Socal Crazy, and the tag team of Anchors Away. And I'm proud of being trained by those guys because I feel like I got a nice, well-rounded training. Tommy Wilson handled like the American style pro wrestling. Socal Crazy handled the Lucha Libre training, and Anchors Away handled the tag team psychology part of wrestling. And it was awesome, man. I enjoyed it. And I remember when I started, there was, you know, X amount of kids there trying to become pro wrestlers. And when I debuted in the Rumble, 3 other guys debuted also. And then within 2 shows, none of those guys came back.
Oh.
So I was the only one that kind of stayed with it. And that was kind of cool. And yeah, I really enjoyed the training aspect of pro wrestling, especially when Socal Crazy brought in his lucha trainer, and I'm trying to remember his name. But anyways, he was a guy from Tijuana. He was probably in his 50s, and he was amazing. I mean, he was doing front handsprings off people's backs, and he'd be like, "Okay, now you guys do it." And what are you gonna say? No. And so you start doing front handsprings off people's backs and doing all the stuff that you never thought you could do. So it was cool, man. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and just those names you just mentioned too. Like everyone has a unique style, and they brought in to you like Socal Crazy, like you said, Lucha Libre style, and then like Anchors Away and Time Wilson, which all of them were vets. Because I remember watching Anchors Away like years ago. I remember watching them in the EWF. Watching those guys and Tommy Wilson. So like, you know, learning from those guys, it must have been like really awesome to learn from them.
Yeah, man, it was fantastic. Tommy, I've told this to people, Tommy, to me in Southern California is one of the best in-ring performers there is.
Yeah.
You walk out, if you told Tommy 1 minute before he hit the curtain, hey, get out there and get over with the crowd, be a babyface, 100% he could do it. If you told him 1 minute before you hit the curtain, hey, get out there and get heat and be a heel, he would do that better than anybody else. He was amazing.
Yeah.
So being able to work with it, even working with Tommy was the best. I had one of my best matches with him at EWF. He's just so much fun because he calls a majority of it in the ring, and he's just so smart about like, hey, where we're at in the match, the pacing of the match. It was awesome, man. All my trainers, I appreciate them more than I can tell you.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, I remember Tom Wilson was so good, like on the mic too. Like he played I remember he would be like a good heel, and he would piss off everyone. Like he was just so good, like in the ring, but also like working on the mic and really good with the crowd. Like he was really, really good when he would wrestle and the way he would work with the crowd. Like I think when it comes to like working, there was no one that did better than him.
No,
very good.
He was amazing. I love it. And Tommy, he just recently came back. He's probably had the last 3 years off, and he's back, and I love seeing it, man. I hope he has a good run. I don't know how much wrestling Tommy has left in him, but I hope he has a good run out of this.
Yeah, same. And talking about like how he was with the mic, like how were you at first, doing promos and working on the mic? Was it something that was like come very easy, or was it something that took time for you to develop?
No, it's terrible. I don't have a fear of public speaking, but being a promo guy, it's a natural talent. I feel you either can talk or you can't. I guess you can learn how to promo, but I don't think. I think the great promo guys already have it in them. They already have the vocabulary for it and all that kind of stuff. Whereas like myself, let's say when I first started, I was terrible. I still don't consider myself good at promos, but I got better just from doing it. And like Devin Sparks was my tag team partner for a little while, and Devin's a promo guy. Devin was just a natural talker. So I don't feel like as much practice as I could have done, I did do. I don't think I would have ever gotten to Devin's level. So yeah, like if you want some like witty promo out of me, probably not going to get it, but I can at least give you a promo.
Mm-hmm. And also,
I'm not busting out no Austin 316 promo.
No, yeah. Oh yeah, and like you said, you mentioned, like you worked with Devin Sparks. What was that tag team partnership working with Devin? Like, what was the whole experience like for you to work with him?
Well, Devin happened to become one of my better friends in wrestling. So I think in 2017, I started working out in Arizona at Arizona Wrestling Federation, and a guy that I wrestled with already named Big Duke. He had been traveling out there a couple times a month, and then I think I hit up Jared. He's the promoter for AWF, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, come on out." And at the exact same time, Devin I must have done it too. So unbeknownst, we all we just kind of were like, "Oh, we're all booked on this show. Let's travel out together." And next thing you know, Big Duke, whose real name is Dan, Devin and myself are traveling out to Arizona like 3 times a month for shows out there. And you're talking about a 6-hour drive out there and then a 6-hour drive home. So that's 12 hours in a car with these people. So you start to really kind of get to know each other and talk about stuff. So then from there, Dan retired. He stepped away from pro wrestling. And so Devin and I were just doing it. And then Devin and I were just like, hey, let's just start doing a tag team. And so we started trying to push a tag team. We actually had our own podcast. It was called The Hogsman. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, a little thing happened called COVID-19. So right when we were trying to really get, the momentum going with the tag team, with the podcast, the shutdown happened. So no wrestling. We could podcast, but we couldn't really podcast about wrestling. Yeah, we talked about wrestling, but we couldn't talk about like, oh, what we're doing this weekend or what we did last weekend, all that kind of stuff. So kind of just, bad timing. And then Devin ended up getting a job out in Texas, a very good job out in Texas. So it's like, yeah, go out there and make the money. So, just kind of the tag team had to dissolve and the podcast because one podcast, I'm not a Zoom guy. We're doing Zoom right now, but when I did my podcast, I liked being in person because it's just a difference, like being in person. And then the tag team, just Devin living out in Texas, that's going to be a flight every time we go somewhere. And that's a hard thing to talk a promoter or a booker into is paying for flights. So yeah, man, it just, it was fun when we did get to tag with each other, but unfortunately it just kind of came at like it was just a bad timing thing, I guess you could say. But Devin and then Dan and I still text message and talk, and yeah, man, we're the Hogsmen for life.
And what advice would you give to someone, let's say they want to a couple wrestlers want to be a tag team. Like, what advice would you give to someone that wants to be in a tag team?
You have to, so I've said this even before Devin and I started tagging. A tag team, you have to be on the exact same path, I guess you could say, right? Like, let's say you have one guy who has a wife, kids, a mortgage, a full-time job, and then the other guy in the tag team lives at home, has maybe a part-time job, has no kid, doesn't have a girlfriend, so there's the responsibility. The responsibilities don't match up with those two guys, right? So you kind of have to be on the same page as far as life, because when one of you get booked, both of you get booked. And if one of you can't make it, that's a problem. And I've seen this with a lot of tag teams back in the day. It's just one person was more dedicated to pro wrestling than the other person. And then that becomes a problem when you're trying to be a tag team. So my advice to anybody starting a tag team is make sure your lives sync up. And I'm not saying like, don't get married, don't have kids, all that kind of stuff. Just understand that if one person has all this responsibility and the other person has no responsibility, there's going to be a problem eventually, because the person with no responsibility, he can make every booking, no problem. Whereas the guy with the responsibilities, with a wife, kid, full-time job, whatever, he might be able to drop everything and just go to a booking for no money, like, you just got to be, you have to be synced up. You have to be in the right place, the right time in your life to be a tag team. That's what I think, at least. No,
it's very, very true. And it's like, and we've asked this question to a lot of wrestlers, and no one talks about this. They talk about
what?
Yeah, I'm being serious. Yeah, because Rich and I, we've asked them, and
Sure.
It just, I think for them, usually the answer usually gives someone is just chemistry, and that's pretty much it. But like,
yeah, that too. But I mean, like I said, I've noticed multiple tag teams where one person was more dedicated than the other, and usually it just became lifestyles. One person was married, one person had kids, one person had a mortgage, the other person didn't have all that stuff. And Devin and I were kind of in the same spot. We were both married. He had a kid, I didn't. But still, we were kind of the same age, and sometimes it was a problem syncing up our bookings, making sure we were both available for bookings. And we were kind of on the same path. So if you have a big discrepancy in lifestyles, you might have a big problem in bookings. So, yeah, I mean, and that's just what I think, man. You're going to get a lot of different answers on a lot of different topics in pro wrestling, and none of them are going to be the right answer. They're just going to be that person's opinion. That's it. So that's my opinion on.
No, I think it's great. Yeah, I think a lot of wrestlers and teams need to hear this, because of what you're saying is very, very true, and a lot of people don't talk about it. And and especially going back, like you mentioned before, doing the podcast and COVID happened. What I was during COVID, I was watching a lot of temperatures from Hollywood, and there was a time that you were wrestling during that time in COVID, wrestling for Hollywood, and wrestling with no audience. Take me back. What was the whole experience like wrestling for them and wrestling during a time when there was, no crowd out there?
Well, Devin and I were supposed to have like a pretty good run in championship. And, it's just one of those things, like, issues happened, not between Devin and I, but, back then you had to get a COVID test every time you went to the show. You had to, if you were booked, you had to have a recent COVID test. And I remember the first time, it was the first time we went back up there as a tag team. Devin's COVID test, his results didn't come back in time. So Devin wasn't able to go. So they had to like hook me up with somebody else. Honest John, I think I tagged with Honest John. And, like that obviously you're not off to a good start when your tag team member can't make the first booking back. Right. So, the tag stuff went a little wonky. Wrestling, I mean, I had a few matches. Probably the most memorable one the second time around that I was up at Championship Wrestling was with Kevin Martinson.
Mm-hmm.
We had a nice match. Kevin is fantastic. He's a fantastic wrestler. It was the first time I ever wrestled him. First time I ever locked up with him, not, anything. And it went really, really well. So wrestling without an audience, it's fine. I mean, it's always nice having the audience there so you can get that reaction and you understand like, where's the crowd at? Where, what can we do to build this up or take it down wherever you got to go. And, you just kind of wrestle.
Yeah.
You kind of just wrestle. I mean, I can't say like, oh, I couldn't get my spots together right because the crowd wasn't there and I wasn't feeling. No, I mean, it's still a wrestling match. You just don't have anybody. You just don't really yell. If you're a heel, you don't yell at the crowd and try and get the heat from them because there ain't nobody to yell at, right? So you yell to the TV lens. Yeah, it was cool, man. I have, I can't really. It was a match. You wrestled. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching. Because I remember you teamed up with Honest John, and I remember your matches. Because I remember you guys wrestled, you wrestled like the Bodega. I think Midnight Heat, and I remember just watching this match. Even Karen Martin too. That match they were just watching, just like what you brought to the table, what you brought to those matches. I was just like, wow, like it was just amazing to watch. And
appreciate it.
And what was it like also working with those teams? Because like with Midnight Heat, which is a very good team, in the Bodega.
Oh, it was fine. Yeah, I mean, Midnight Heat, I knew them from up in the Pacific Northwest area, a promotion called WCWC, West Coast Wrestling Connection. They were up there for a while, and they were 4 minutes of heat up there. So I knew those guys. I never wrestled with them up there because I was a singles competitor up there. But they were cool. I liked them a lot. And eventually Devin and I kind of would message with them and we would do some stuff for social media and stuff like that to have fun. But wrestling them, I think our match could have gone a little bit better. Devin unfortunately got hurt when we had a match with them. So that kind of sucked. But yeah, I mean, I never really, and I have no ill will towards Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I think it's a great promotion for young wrestlers and people that are coming up. But I don't feel like I ever kind of really fit in there. I never really got my stride, I guess you could say. It was kind of always just seems like it was just a little, I never really kind of just, I never really hit my stride, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I enjoyed watching you in Hollywood. I think the matches you put in were great, and I remember watching every week. Was like very, very exciting to watch you in action when you're in Hollywood. But also, recently now you're doing a lot of stuff for Level Up Pro. And take me back, what's it been like the whole experience wrestling there and wrestling with for Level Up Pro?
That's cool, man. Level Up Pro has got like a really great thing going on. So I started wrestling for Level Up, I think in 2018 or 2019. I had been at Socal Pro since 2013, and by around 2017 or 2018, 2019, Tommy Wilson had left. He took a hiatus from wrestling. Anchors Away had left because Trevor had moved, and Andy was kind of, doing the real job stuff, the shoot stuff. And then SoCal Crazy had moved away. He moved up further towards like Anaheim and stuff like that. So it was kind of a far drive.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really kind of like myself, Ryan Kidd, and, I can't like helping out with the newer students. So I wasn't really improving myself, right? Because nobody was teaching me. So I kind of felt like I had plateaued, and I was just like, man, I need to go to the next. I need to try and, get better. So I hit up B-Boy Benny, and I was like, hey Benny, you mind if I come by and train with you? I would just ring time basically, right? I'd give him like $20 for ring time. And then after a few weeks, Benny hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, you want to help me train these kids over here? That way you don't have to pay me $20. You can just be a trainer, and then you get your ring time in, and I'll help train you and all that kind of stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, man, that sounds great." So I really kind of left Socal Pro and started training the students over at Level Up, and also trying to get better at myself. And also the great thing about Level Up was they had Friday shows every weekend. So I would get in there and I would wrestle with, the younger kids. And, it wasn't big shows. We'd have maybe 20 people around the ring, but it was fun. It was a really good time. And man, a lot there. I don't know how much you guys pay attention to Level Up, but a lot of these kids have just really started to take off. Michael Hopkins is doing fantastic right now. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. I love the character. I love the in-ring work. Same thing with Juan Matatoli, J2. I mean, these guys are just kind of stepping up and going to the next level. And even Judiz, he came back this past year and he started training at Level Up a lot now. And look at him, man. And he just recently turned heel. And I've been saying this for years. There's an angry man inside of Judiz that's just waiting to come out. And he was always like, "I don't know, man. I don't know." And finally it came out. And actually after the last show, I was talking to him like, "How good does it feel?" And he goes, "This is so much better." And I told him like, "Man, it's fun being a heel. It's fun. It's so much funner than being a babyface." And I think the character that he's trying to work right now works way better as a heel than it does a babyface, because he was trying to make things happen. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with Judiz and his character, but it was kind of offsetting what he was saying in his promos, what he was doing during his matches, and also still trying to be a babyface. It just didn't really, it kind of, clashed. Whereas now the gloves are off and he doesn't have to try and, get cheers. So he just he goes hard on the audience, and it's working, man. It's working. And his in-ring skills have gotten so much better. But those are just, 3 guys that I can think of, but also a couple guys that have recently started breaking out, Sexy Fab. I mean, let me tell you, this kid had lead in his ass. I didn't think he was going to make it when he first started training. But the thing that impresses me the most, okay, when new students come in, you're going to have the guys that are athletic and they get it. No problem. Everything's very simple for them to get. All the movements, I guess you could say, very easy. Psychology is the hard part. But Fab, he wasn't the most athletic, but he kept showing up. And slowly you just saw him get better and better and better. And those are the people that impress me, people that it doesn't come easy to. They keep showing back up. Back at Socal Pro, there was this kid, his name was Alex, and Alex was he made video games. He was like a video game guy, and he didn't look like he had an athletic bone in his body, and it did not come easy to him. And he kept showing back up. And then all of a sudden, like a year and a half later or something like that, he was able to debut. And to see the excitement in his face when he was finally able to debut on a show, it was like, man, that's awesome, because he really had to work for it. Whereas me, man, I did like 3 months of training, and I was in the ring, but he had to really grind it out and work on his physique and in-ring ability, and he did, man. And he ended up transitioning to a referee, and then he moved. I don't know where he moved to now, but he won me over. Because this is a kid, when I first saw him, I was like, no way he's going to make it. But he kept showing back up. And that's what wins. For me, that won me over for him. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm on this kid's team. I am supporting this kid. And he ended up becoming a really good referee too. But then, he left the business, and that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And especially what you were saying about Level Up Pro, and they produce. One thing they do is they produce very, very great wrestlers, like you said about Judas and all the names you just mentioned. You know, there's like you said, the careers are starting to take off, and it's amazing to watch and see. You know what Level Up's been doing with these guys and the work.
Man, let me tell you this: the character too. These characters that these kids are creating, it's fantastic, man. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Level Up shows, but you have Rebel Storm. I mean, that kid, his character is fantastic. And I remember when he was talking about that character, and Devin Sparks was helping him out with that character too, trying to really bring it out. And he's doing a fantastic job with what he's doing now. Bishop Thunderbird, another fantastic character, and it's only getting better, and it's only getting better. This kid named Tyler, who is Some Dude Chillin'. So when I first heard about this character, I was like, it's never gonna work. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But then I saw him debut, and I've watched his past few matches, and I'm like, holy shit, this kid, he's making it work. You know, he proved me wrong. So yeah, man, it's just really great to see these kids that you saw come in on day one and not know shit, and then they ended up, you're working with them, all of a sudden they're on these shows, man, and they're popping crowds with their character work. I'm a fan of it, man. You have DTF and Remy, they're the Shady Boys. They're killing it too, man. I love all it. And I will always tell them, hey, this is working. All these kids, it's working. Keep doing it after their matches, because I see how these crowds are reacting to them. I think they're gonna have some guys that really break out the next couple years.
Yeah, definitely agree. And also tell me about, now you're on the other side of it now. You're a student, and now you're being a coach and training these guys. Like, what advice do you give to these guys that you want to become a professional wrestler? Or someone that's watching this that thinking about being in the business, want to become a professional wrestler, what advice would you give to someone?
You are putting yourself out to the public. You're saying, hey, I'm going to be a character in this business. I want to be in this business. So what you are is you're putting yourself out to the public. When you do that, you're opening yourself up for criticism. You did this. The business, the wrestling business did not come to you and say, hey, come be a wrestler. You decided to be a wrestler. So when you have criticism, you ask for it. This is what you asked for. And this is something I do tell the wrestlers or the students that are coming in. If you have issues with mental health, I get that under control before you get into this business, because this business will eat you up. And especially, I don't know what it's like to have mental health problems or depression or anything like that, but I can only imagine, because I'm somebody that doesn't suffer from that, and it affects me. But then you got to realize, like, hey, it is what it is, man. I asked to do this. You're always going to have people that want to, put the turd in the punch bowl, right? Everybody can be saying a bunch of great things about you, and then there's one person that's going to say, fuck this. Mike Camden, he's a piece of shit. He looks like an idiot in the ring. He, all that, I don't know, whatever they say. So, hey, accept it. You don't have to read it. You stay off social media if you want to, but it is kind of an important thing in pro wrestling is to have social media so you can, what do you call it? Promote yourself. There you go. Promote yourself. So if you're somebody that suffers from depression or mental health, prior to getting into wrestling, I say, make sure you got a hold of that. And then, also come in, show up in shape. A lot of the students, they go to the classes, and that's fine. But I always tell them this isn't enough. You got to be in the gym. You got to be, eating properly. You got to do all this kind of stuff. It's a pretty full-time thing, pro wrestling. And it's not just like, it's my hobby, pro wrestling. It's a lifestyle. If you're really trying to make a go at this, it's a lifestyle. And it goes from training to the gym to eating to tanning to gear to social media to all that kind of stuff. It's a lot, man. It's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. And again, you're saying things that no one like talks about. And I feel like people have to hear this. You know, people residents have to hear this.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, being a trainer now, it's cool. You know, I it's weird because I don't, when I'm a trainer, I don't show kids like, you're not going to get some like high indie spot off of me. You know, I'm not going to show you like a drag, like a, what is it called? Like a dragon rana. You know, I'm not going to show you how to do a dragon rana. I'm going to show you just kind of how to make the hold look a little bit tighter, make it look a little bit better. I'm very much about the basics, the basic fundamentals, because that will get you through a whole match. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to show you a lot of lucha stuff. I trained lucha, but the biggest thing I got out of my training for lucha was I learned how to base for lucha. You know, if you watch my matches, I don't do a lot of lucha. I can, but it's just, why would I do that? My character isn't a luchador. I always tell this to students too. Would your character be doing this move? Right? If you're a person who's like, I'm a fighter, I'm a psychopath, I want to be like a mental case. Okay, excellent. That's your character. You want to be a brawler. Okay, excellent. Why are you out there trying to technical wrestle?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't match up to your character. So your in-ring style needs to match up to your character, or else it's kind of like, what's going on around here? Yeah, so you know, when I show these students, when I train the students, I don't show them anything like flashy. I just show them like, hey, this is how to make it look a little bit better. That's the most I can show to them is the little stuff. The importance of having a good punch or a good kick and making it look believable. That's a lot of what I train. I you know, you guys would probably, if you guys showed up to one of my classes, you'd probably be like, why is Mike just showing arm ringers? Because like, that's a lot of people when they do a lazy arm ringer, you know, it's just very lazy, where it's like, hey, make this stuff look tight, make it look good, make it look believable. This is a magic show. The second the audience sees a flaw in that magician's trick, they're done with it. They don't believe it anymore. We're magicians. We're making you think something is happening that's not. You know, we're making you believe that we're in a real competitive match. And as much as people want to be like, oh, well, you know, you're blowing kayfabe, stop talking about this. Well, check this out, man. I've seen plenty of movies where I've seen the actor talk about the movie, either promoting it or afterwards. But during the movie, I believe what's happening. You know, I'm able to suspend disbelief. So while you're in that ring, make them believe what you're doing is real, you know, as much as you can. Yeah, that's about it.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I love it, man. I love everything that you're saying, and it's real, and it's, you know, like I said, I love hearing these things, and everything that you say is very, very, you know, it's true. And also, you know, getting to see your, I noticed in your Instagram, you know, you've been putting a lot of videos of you doing martial arts now, like you mentioned earlier, doing jiu-jitsu and boxing, which is awesome. Rich and I actually do a little bit of it, martial arts, so it's really cool to see that. And what made you want to do that? Make you do martial arts?
I've always been a fan of martial arts growing up, but it costs money to train martial arts. So you know, just in the past however many years, I've kind of become a little bit more financially stable. And actually, it was probably the quarantine that got me back into it, because when everything shut down, you know, obviously there was no gyms you could go to, and I was just kind of, I had started doing a little bit of the boxing. So my trainer, Gabriel, I hit him up and I was like, hey, Gabe, do you got any open spots for privates? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I've been training with him ever since the quarantine, once a week. I mean, we'll miss a week, you know, every now and then, but I've been training boxing and like MMA with him for about over 2 years now. And it's been fantastic, man. And kind of just seeing the gradual progression. I have a video from when I first started training with them. I look like shit. I'm hunky. You know, my punches are slow. My hands are down. And then, you know, you look at that compared to how it is now, and I have just my boxing style is tighter. My hands aren't down by my waist. You know, you can see the progression, and it wasn't an overnight thing. It took time. You know, anything worth doing it isn't going to happen overnight. So you got to really work for it. So, and then from there, I started training Muay Thai. There was a Muay Thai gym open during the quarantine. And I was like, man, I'm going to go train there, man. I got to do something. So I did Muay Thai for about a year, and that was cool. I really enjoyed learning it. But unfortunately I have a bad ankle that I suffered from pro wrestling. And I noticed it would give me a lot of problems when I was doing Muay Thai because of all the kicks and stuff like that. So just a handful of months ago, I stopped going to Muay Thai and just started practicing more boxing. And then I switched over to jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu is awesome, man. I trained with a guy named Tarsis Humphreys, who is very well respected. He's a 4th degree black belt. I think in 2010, he won the ADCC, his weight class, and the absolute, which is not easy.
No,
So it's been cool, man. And really kind of learning jiu-jitsu, man. It's really cool. It's really cool, man. I've really enjoyed it. And tell you the truth, a lot of this stuff I wanted to learn because I wanted to try and get on GCW's Bloodsport. So I was like, well, fuck, man, I don't want to be, you know, some poser. I want to actually know this shit. So that's why I started doing all this stuff with the hopes of maybe getting on Bloodsport one day. But I don't know if that's going to happen. It was just, you know, but now it's become more, like I enjoy doing it. And I don't know how long I'm going to do jiu-jitsu for, but it's fun. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I'm having fun and I'm learning.
Yeah, that's I know it's for Rich and I, we love learning that way. That's what makes it fun. And watching your videos and watching your progression from you're doing your mitts from boxing, you know, you're getting better, man. And it's fun to
appreciate
watch.
it. What style you guys do?
We've done, I think Rich wrestled in high school, so he wrestled, and then he did, and then now we're doing jiu-jitsu, and I did boxing.
Cool.
But yeah, we've done pretty much almost everything for martial arts, but
prefer more like more no-gi. We prefer,
I just did no-gi for the first time like 2 weeks ago. Man, it's a whole different sport.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yes.
I never got rear naked choked so many times than that night, because it's crazy with the gi. You feel like you're a little protected around the neck.
Right.
Whereas with no gi, this is just open, and man, it was crazy. But it was really cool. I enjoyed it. I look forward to doing more no gi stuff down the road.
That's cool. Yeah, I remember we only did like gi a couple times, and it felt weird because we've done no gi for such a long time. So for putting out the gi, it felt just weird. But it's tricky. It's hard. Like I remember someone caught me in a collar choke, and I was like, "What? What is this?" Like,
yeah.
So it's very different. Two different worlds.
It is, man. And the gi it's not comfortable when you first put it on.
Yeah,
you're kind of, you know, it takes a while for it to become a little bit more comfortable, and for you to kind of be like, okay, cool, I'm used to this. Because I mean, it's like a big towel.
Yeah, it's kind of heavy.
It's a jacket that feels like a big towel that's on you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's so hot too. Wearing the thing.
Yes, it is. If you got a rash guard underneath it, man, it heats up real quick.
But you know, and especially now when you look back in your pro wrestling career, what moment or what match is your favorite, memorable for you?
I don't know, man. I don't know if you could say there's one particular. I think this is something I learned from Gangrel. He learned it from, I think it was Boris Malenko that trained him. and he told us this one time that there's no jewel at the end of the journey. The journey is the jewel. So, you know, as much as we all start wrestling and you think like, okay, the progression is you're going to get signed to a big contract and you're going to win a world title and you're going to make lots of money and that's going to be the end of it, right? You're going to make a lot of money. Not for about 99.9% of pro wrestlers. That's not going to happen. A lot of it is just going to be the independence. Maybe you get a whiff of the major leagues, but a lot of it is just the independence. So there's a lot of memories, and you take those memories and you enjoy the good ones, and then the bad ones you try and forget about. And even the bad ones, you kind of go, oh yeah, it's not that big of a deal anyways. You know, like I remember one time I messed up out in North Carolina at WrestleCade. Oh man, totally botched this promo. We were in Winston-Salem, and I thought we were in Greensboro, and the crowd immediately turned on me. And I was like so embarrassed. It was totally like that Hulk Hogan moment, you know, where like you call like the Silver Dome, the Superdome or something like that. Yeah. And I remember just being like mortified, like, oh God. But now I give two shits about, you know, messing up on that. It was funny, you know, to tell you the truth, I think it's hilarious. It's probably cooler that I said the wrong name than if I did say the right name. You know, I have good, like Wrestling Gangrel was one of the, was a very good memory that I have. I can't say it's my favorite match, but it was one of my favorite memories because I watched him when I was in high school. He had one of the sickest entrances when I was a kid. Yeah. You know, he was a cool character. And then when I got to be in the same company as him and then eventually matched up to him, I was nervous as shit. I couldn't. It was like wrestling somebody that you grew up playing, or it was like playing baseball with somebody that you grew up watching. It was like any sports figure that you grew up watching, you're now, you know, facing them or playing with them. And I remember I was so nervous when I wrestled Gangrel. I couldn't believe, because usually you hit the curtain and the nervousness, it goes out the window. This stayed with me the whole way until we locked up. It was crazy, man. But that was a good memory. You know, getting to travel around with WWE back in the day, that was a lot of fun. I did a few loops with them around like Arizona, Vegas, LA, the Southwest area. So that was a lot of fun. I got to meet Mr. Belding. Like I was chatting with Mr. Belding a few times when I saw, because he's a big wrestling fan. So he's always, whenever they're in LA or Anaheim, he's in the backstage area. So I got to talk to him a few times. He was cool as shit. Yeah, man, there's just stuff like that where, you know, good times like that. I don't know if I have like an actual favorite match. I have a lot of fun matches that I did. I don't know if I have a favorite match that I was in, but it was all cool, man. It was all fun. You know, I'm starting to come to I'm on the back end of my wrestling. I'm probably close to done. And you know, I look back at it as like, hey man, I spent my 30s wrestling. I'll be 40 next week or next weekend. Yeah, I'll be 40. And I basically spent my 30s as a pro wrestler. And that's cool, man. I really I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And as of now, like, you know, is there any certain wrestlers you like to work with in the future? Any list of names or?
No. Crazy, right? And that's how I know I'm kind of done. Yeah. Actually, I did take some. I took some time off. I think it was September of last year. I stepped away for a handful of months, probably about 6 or 7 months, just because I was done. I was kind of just done with pro wrestling. I didn't want to travel anymore. I was done with doing COVID tests before every match. You know, just a whole bunch of things I was just kind of done with. I started, you know, I have my own business, and I started thinking like, man, if I get hurt, my real form of income could be affected by that if I get hurt in wrestling, right? So I was like, I need to step away from wrestling and kind of just rethink if I really want to do this. So I took a few months away, and I did have the intention of coming back, but I didn't know when. And I eventually I started being like, okay, I'm about to be 40, and unfortunately, your physical ability really declines, right? So I was like, man, if I get back in the ring and it's a year from now, I might not be able to do this. I might not have the same ability physically to be a pro wrestler. So I was like, you know what? I'll probably come back. I'll come back a little bit earlier and get some matches under my belt and work with some of the newer students. And I told Benny, B-Boy, I go, hey man, when I come back, I don't want to plan anything. I'll plan the finish. I want to plan the finish, and then I want to call it on the ring, because that's the only thing different that's the only thing I can do to be different in the ring. I don't know how you guys feel about the current product of wrestling, but a lot of it is the same shit, the same stuff in the ring. Every match feels like the same. Not that they're the same movements, but it's the same story. It's the 7 steps of pro wrestling. And everybody thinks every match has to follow those 7 steps, and they don't. I got sick of seeing the opening match go out there and have 5 false finishes. You just killed it for everybody in the back now, man. You just killed the main event. Because there's little tricks in pro wrestling that you can do to make the whole show good. Not just your match. We need the whole show to be good, because the audience is the one watching the whole show. You're going in there for your one match and you think you have to kill it. But unfortunately, if you do too much and you're the first, second, third match on the card, well, then you just blew up for the rest of the show, and you blew up for the crowd. I don't know how many shows you guys have been to. By the time the main event comes out, you're worn out. You're like, man, I've kind of seen everything. How can I see more dives? How can I see more hot tags, double downs? So what I told Benny was, when I come back, man, we'll plan whoever I'm working with, we'll plan the finish, and then I'll call it all in the ring. And I told him that's the only way I feel like I can be different in the ring from a lot of the other people. So, I went out the last level up show. I was the first match, and we didn't do shit. No dive, no nothing, no shenanigans, no false finishes, no nothing like that, because we're the first match. You know what the first match is? We're the bread and butter. We're the chips and salsa, right? You go to a restaurant, you have, your appetizer, you have your main course, you have your drinks, your dessert if you want, right? The opening match is your chips and salsa. It's the bread and butter. Oh, cool, man. Let's get started, And what happens when you fill yourself up on the chips and salsa or the bread and butter, right? There's too much of it. Well, all of a sudden now your entree is ruined. Your dessert is ruined because you've already eaten too much, right? So if the opening match goes out there and gives you too much, well, then now you're making it for everybody else on the card, rather than just, hey, get out there, get them on their feet, get them excited, and let's have some fun, and just roll on in to the next match. So that's the biggest thing when I've come back to pro wrestling is, I told them if somebody doesn't want to, or just basically doesn't have the ability to just work and just call it in the ring, I don't need the match. I really don't. I don't know if I've ever really had a list of like people that I want to work with. It's kind of just like, okay, put me in there with whoever and we'll see what we can do. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, that's kind of just my role as a pro wrestler right now. Is I want to just help younger students be comfortable with calling it in the ring. Mm-hmm. I'm cool with, hey, you can call spots and do all that stuff. That's cool. But sometimes you got to get out there and you got to call it in the ring and you got to be comfortable with it. And I remember when I first went in there with Tommy Wilson and Brandon Gatson, Tommy, at least I had trained with him. So I knew exactly when he was going to call in the ring, I knew exactly what was going to happen. Brandon Gatson, I'd never wrestled him at all. So when I had a match with him early in my career, he was like, we planned the back end out, but he was like, I'll figure out all the other stuff. And I was shitting my pants because I didn't know how to do it. So, but it was fantastic. And Brandon Gatson basically carried me that whole match. And I saw what he did, and I saw what Tommy Wilson was doing, and I go, oh, that's how you call it in the ring? Okay, cool. I'm gonna start learning how to do that. And I started doing a lot of that in the past couple years. We would have the back end figured out, but then the front end of the match, I would just tell a person, I'll call it in there. I mean, if you have a spot or like a shine spot you want to get in, cool, let's get it in. But other than that, just listen to me. So, and then I wanted to take it a little bit further. I was like, hey man, I want to call the whole match except for the finish. And yeah, man. So that's kind of what I've been doing is getting in there and just figuring out the finish of the match, and then going, okay, cool, we'll figure out the rest when we're in there.
Mm-hmm. And it's so true what you say, like how you watch an event, and then once it gets to the main event, it's like you've seen so much. It's like when Rich and I watch like AEW, like when it gets to the main event of a pay-per-view, it's like, man, it's already been, you kind of just done already before the main event starts, and it's very, very true what you're saying, that when the first matches, they're just the appetizer, the chips and salsa, and then when it gets to the main event, then but just seems, I feel like AEW or other promotions they don't usually do it in that formula.
Yeah, and the pro wrestling that I grew up on was like that early, like that 80s style, the 90s style, the attitude era style. A lot of the attitude era wrestling I liked because it wasn't pretty. It was ugly. It wasn't too clean. It looked like men fighting. And I enjoy that. Even a lot of these matches today, who I don't watch too much pro wrestling, like on AEW or WWE or anything like that. I'll watch the students matches just to kind of help them out like a little bit if I see anything. But recently I watched that match with Thunder Rosa and Marina Shafir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was like some controversy about it, about like Thunder Rosa like sandbagging her. To tell you the truth, I watched that match and I was like, I love this match because it looked legitimate. Like it looked like two people like trying to like fight, and it's even like that. I don't know if you guys have seen that Goldberg William Regal match from and people are like, oh, there's Regal's shooting on him. I love that match because of the realism in it. So yeah, that kind of just the kind of wrestling I like. When it's too clean, it looks choreographed.
Yeah.
And that's not bad, but sometimes you want to see, you want to see it get ugly a little bit, you want to have the idea that these guys are fighting. So yeah, man. Yeah.
Everything you said is, for us, Rich and I, we kind of have this conversation every time we watch it. Maybe it's like we watch the high flying or watch this, like it's not, it was real. The whole point is to make a match real, make it into a fight. That's the whole point. Two opponents are fighting each other.
Yep.
So Rich and I always had this kind of conversation, but yeah, it's true what you're saying. Definitely agree.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, Mike, thank you so much again for being on the podcast, man. We truly enjoyed this amazing conversation. Before we end, is there anything you like to, anything you have upcoming, any events coming up, or you like to promote anything, social media?
Social media, I mean, I got my Instagram. I deleted Twitter because that place is a cesspool. Instagram, I'm I think I might still be at Mike Camden _ or Mike _ Camden. I might be at 12-year vet now, or 12 mile vet, because that's exactly the distance from my house to Level Up. So I'm a 12-mile vet. Level Up has a show coming up. I believe it's on July 9th.
Okay.
And I will be taking on, I was supposed to be taking on Cameron August, but he apparently suffered an injury. So I will be taking on his faction mate, Jeff Roth, who he's the Jackal, Jeff Roth. And I'm looking forward to working with Jeff because he's a newer kid. He does have a Muay Thai background. He has like a little bit of a shoot background. So we hopefully it'll be a fun little match we get out of that. And I think that's about it, man. I don't really have too many bookings. I don't really take bookings anymore.
Okay, all right. Well, sounds good. We'll put everything down in the description down below where you can follow him, all his social medias, and also support Level Up Pro Wrestling. It's gonna be awesome. We'll also put down the link for that event. And again, Mike, thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. We had so much fun.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys very much, man. And thanks for supporting the indie wrestling and pro wrestling. And thank you guys very much, man. I hope to see you guys at some shows.
Of course, yeah, that's too. We're really, really excited to hope we can see you in the show. And again, also thanks for all the listeners out there watching and supporting, and again supporting us, but also supporting independent wrestling. And that's gonna do it us for here. Don't forget to subscribe and like and comment, do all that fun stuff. And we'll see you guys next time here at Championship Online Podcast.
Are we clear?